Previously, as Jinwoo flew atop Kaisel, he observed the giant gate that had appeared in the skies above Korea, anticipating the greatest battle yet to come. The next day at the Hunter Association Gymnasium, Jinwoo was sparring with Baru. Baru launched a flurry of attacks, but none could touch Jinwoo. He had grown far stronger since their last fight. While blocking Baru's strike with a single hand, Jinwoo asked him if he was truly giving it his all. Baru humbly responded, "I would never dare to." Jinwoo smiled and said it was fine, explaining he just wanted to break a sweat, and Baru was the only one capable of helping him do that. They prepared to resume, and Baru charged once more, but Jinwoo effortlessly dodged his attack. As Baru came at him again, Jinwoo blocked and noted that Baru had grown stronger after being promoted to commander rank. Jinwoo then added, "Did you know that there can only be one commander in an army?" He warned Baru that once Igris and Greed reached general rank, it wouldn't be long before they could challenge for commander as well. If you don't want to lose your spot, you'd better keep working hard. Motivated by his king's words, Baru went all out. But Jinwoo thought to himself, "It's still not enough. Even though Baru is the strongest in my shadow army, he's still not strong enough to face what's coming." As Baru attempted a powerful strike, Jinwoo grabbed his arm and slammed him into the ground. While Baru was stuck, Jinwoo delivered a devastating punch to his ribs, launching him into a wall. After recovering, Baru humbly praised him. "I am continuously amazed by my king's mighty strength." Jinwoo joked, saying, "I think I need to start blocking historical drama channels so you can't watch more." Now that the sparring session was done, Jinwoo decided to clean up the place. He called Chairman Wu and said, "Please don't get mad. I've got around 300 ants who are pretty good at manual labor." The scene then shifted to Thomas, Andre, and Laura. Laura asked if they were returning to the US, but Thomas replied, "How could I leave behind something so grand and beautiful?" Laura remarked, "It's big, but I'm not sure about beautiful." Thomas explained, "Anything that makes the heart flutter is beautiful. The fire-breathing dragon, the enormous gate, and Hunter Jinwoo's strength. They're all beautiful." He added that there was no gate in the US anyway, so there was no reason to return. Laura mentioned the Hunter Bureau was concerned, but Thomas brushed it off. "What a joke. There's no place safer than being near Hunter Jinwoo. If we can't stop it here, there won't be a beyond. That's why I want to know, is this the end of humanity or the beginning of something new?" The next day, people were evacuating the area around the gate. Back at Jinwoo's home, Gina asked her mother why they weren't evacuating like everyone else. Her mother replied, "If this place is going to become a battlefield, wouldn't it be better for us to choose where we die? Besides, our house isn't in the evacuation zone." Gina, upset, protested, "I'll be a college student next year. I was going to drink whenever I wanted and enjoy college life while living alone. My life is just starting. I don't want to die like this." Her mother smiled and said, "That's a good point. But don't worry, Jinwoo will protect us, just like your father once did." The scene shifts back to Jinwoo, who was sitting atop a building, staring at the massive gate in the sky. He wondered to himself, "Can I really close this without anyone getting hurt?" Pulling out his phone, he thought, "Who would I want to spend my final moments with?" The story then shifts to Cha Hye-in, who was training in a dojo. Her master, observing her form, commented, "I've sensed some hesitation in your sword recently. I'm worried that fear might be growing inside you." Just then, Cha noticed her phone ringing. As she went to answer it, her master said with a smile, "Looks like I'm talking too much." A hunter should never miss their calls. After speaking briefly with the person on the other end, Cha turned to her master and said, "Something's come up suddenly. I need to go." As she left, her master stood alone, smiling knowingly. So that's how it is. Time passed, and we see Jinwoo and Cha Hye-in walking together in an amusement park. People around them were buzzing with excitement upon seeing the two high-profile hunters together. Jinwoo commented, "There are more people here than I expected, considering everything going on right now." Cha asked if he liked places like this. He replied, "I don't particularly like it, but I've always wanted to come here at least once." Curious, Cha asked why he brought her to a place he had always wanted to visit. Jinwoo simply said, "Because you're the only friend I have." Cha was taken aback by his words, and Jinwoo reminded her of the time in the double dungeon, when she called them friends in front of the architect. She asked if he had heard that, and he replied with a smirk, "I have really good hearing." As she thought about it, Cha realized 2 years had already passed since she became a hunter. It had been so long since she'd gone out feeling this lighthearted. Looking at Jinwoo, she felt something different, a unique scent, something only he gives off. When Jinwoo asked if she wanted to try everything in the park, she smiled and said yes. Seeing her enthusiasm, Jinwoo thought, so I'm not the only one who wanted to come to a place like this. But despite their efforts, the rides weren't as thrilling as they hoped. Even the fake monsters in the park reacted with fear upon sensing their presence. Eventually, they sat down to eat, and Jinwoo asked, "You're not having fun, are you?" Cha replied, "It's fun." Jinwoo followed up, "Then why didn't you scream even once?" Realizing the rides were probably too slow for someone like her, he asked, "Weren't they kind of boring for an S-rank hunter?" Cha agreed. He grinned and said, "Then let's ride something actually fun." In the next moment, we see Kaisel soaring through the clouds with Jinwoo and Cha riding on his back. Jinwoo asked, "How's this?" Cha answered with a smile, "It's fast, high, and beautiful." She then asked, "Why did you even bother with the amusement park when you had something like this?" Jinwoo looked ahead and said, "That park was built on top of the gate where my father disappeared. I've always wanted to visit it at least once, to properly say goodbye." Cha looked at him warmly and thanked him, saying, "You've done nothing but show kindness to me." Jinwoo then told her, "There's still one more thing I want to show you." The final scene shows both of them sitting beneath the open sky, watching the stars above. A shooting star streaked across the heavens as they sat in silence, sharing a rare, peaceful moment in the midst of chaos. Fast forward to the next day, a hunter was walking, thinking that a monster gate would open in a few days. "I'm a B rank now. I can't be letting my guard down," he thought. As he was walking, he bumped into someone and asked the person to stop. It was Raken. The man, not knowing who he was, started to shout. The people around them, thinking a fight was about to break out, began to gather. The man demanded Raken apologize for bumping into him, saying, "I'm a B rank now, a relatively high-rank hunter." As he was yelling, Raken opened his mouth and bit off the man's head. The nearby hunters were horrified by what they saw. Raken then unleashed a wave of mana, destroying everything around him and throwing the hunters into the air. He declared to the hunters, "Listen closely, you lowly humans. From now on, I will start hunting you. My teeth and nails will rip apart your weak skin and flesh." Then he declared, "I am the king of beasts, the beast monarch. Stop me if you dare." Back in the forest, Hunter Cha Hyen was drinking water from a lake when Jinwoo approached her. He said, "I know a hotel around here that serves really good breakfast," and asked if she wanted to go there to wash up and have a meal. He then summoned Kaisel and said, "Let's go." Meanwhile, back at the Hunter Association, someone was informing Chairman Woo Jin-cho that a monster was outside, attacking all the hunters present in the area. Wu asked about the casualties, and the man replied, "We're unable to confirm the exact number at the moment." Hearing that, Wu thought, there should still be at least a couple of hours until the dungeon break. I've already got my hands full with the gate, and now some monster shows up. Wu then asked about Jinwoo's whereabouts, and the man said, "We haven't been able to reach him." A short while later, someone informed Wu that a hunter capable of facing the monster had appeared. Wu asked, "Is it Jinwoo?" The man answered, "No, but he said he's a world-class hunter who just happened to be nearby." Then we see Leonard Neerman standing in front of the monster. He wondered if he could really take it on and thought, maybe the reason I stayed in Seoul was because I was meant to fight this monster. While Leonard was lost in thought, Thomas Andre appeared, grabbed him by the head, and shoved him back, saying, "Back off. You'll only get in my way." Back at the restaurant, Jinwoo was enjoying a meal with Hunter Cha when he received a call from Chairman Wu, who asked where he had been, saying they hadn't been able to contact him until now. Jinwoo explained, "I was outside the service zone." Wu then briefed him on the situation in the city. A monster was running wild in the middle of Seoul. Jinwoo asked, "How many enemies are there?" Wu responded, "Only one. Hearing that, Jinwoo thought, every hunter is gathered in Seoul right now, preparing to stop the dungeon break of the gigantic gate, and they're being destroyed by a single magical beast that appeared out of nowhere. Wu added, an entire guild that confronted the monster was wiped out instantly. Thomas Andre is currently facing off against it. Jinwoo was shocked. That can't be. I placed shadow soldiers on Thomas and the other hunters. They were supposed to report if even something ordinary happened. When Jinwoo tried to connect with the shadows, he noticed the signal from the soldiers in Seoul was unusually faint, almost as if something was deliberately suppressing it. He was puzzled and concerned. He turned to Hunter Cha and said, there's a problem in Korea right now. Cha asked, did the dungeon break happen? Jinwoo replied, no, it's something else. Then he urgently asked Chairman Wu, does the monster have a shadow? You must confirm whether the monster has a shadow or not, because it could be a colossal beast hidden in invisible shadows. Meanwhile, Leonard Neerman nervously called out Thomas's name as the hunters in the background shouted in relief and excitement, saying that the Goliath was here. But Andre, annoyed, yelled at the hunters, telling them not to just stand there and to evacuate the civilians. Looking at the monster before him, Thomas Andre said that it looked like this wild beast didn't know its place. Both of them were emitting immense amounts of mana as the fight began. Raken attacked Thomas, but it had no effect on him. Thomas punched Raken in the face, knocking him back. He tried to land another punch, but Raken dodged and was about to strike Thomas, only to be slammed into the ground instead. Meanwhile, Hunter Choi Jong-in had arrived at the scene and asked how the situation was. A hunter told him they were still evacuating people. He added that both the Fiend Guild and the White Tiger Guild had been dispatched. Sensing the creature's mana, Choi thought, Thomas is fighting off a mysterious magic beast. But this massive presence feels even worse than what I felt during the Jeju Island raid. He wondered what kind of monster the Goliath was up against. Back in the fight, Raken was seen flying through the air and crashing into a building. Thomas stood there, having delivered the blow. But it wasn't enough to keep Raken down. He jumped back at Thomas and landed a strong hit to his chest. Though powerful, Thomas managed to stop it. Grabbing Raken, he slammed him into the ground, thinking it was over, until Raken kicked him in the face and launched him into the air. Thomas landed on his feet and began to use reinforcement. The scene shifted to the White Tiger Guild, who had arrived at the location. Hunter Baek Yun-ho instructed his members to be ready for anything. Just as he was speaking, something flew past him and crashed into a building. As the dust settled, he saw it was the magic beast that had been reported. Beck looked toward Thomas, who had completely transformed. Thomas told them to hurry and take cover. Looking at Raken, Beck realized it was definitely not a normal monster and thought he should transform as well. But before he could act, Raken appeared in front of him. Feeling its power, Beck froze. He thought about the animal's sixth sense telling him not to be recognized as prey. As Raken walked by him, Beck couldn't even make eye contact. Raken then used his ability to lift all the cars around him and hurled them at Thomas. But he suddenly started to feel something. It was Thomas pulling him toward himself. As Raken got close, Thomas smashed him into the ground and began pummeling him, thinking, what is this feeling? This uneasiness. It feels like I'm not going to win. As those thoughts ran through his mind, Raken caught Thomas's fist and started getting back up, saying, to think a mere puppet of a fragment could be this powerful. He told Thomas he had seen enough of his petty tricks and asked if he was afraid. He then launched a series of attacks as the hunters watched in horror. During the fight, Raken noticed something odd. Reaching for Thomas's shadow, he sensed Jinwoo's soldier. He pulled out a shadow ant and smashed him, saying, you're in the way. He grabbed Thomas by the neck and said, shall we continue? Since you seem confident in your strength, why don't we have a little battle of strength? But when he shattered Thomas's armor, he was stunned to see it was empty. Thomas appeared behind him, grabbed him and said, who do you think you are, blabbering on so arrogantly? Then he broke Raken's neck. However, to Thomas's shock, Raken recovered completely. He grabs Thomas Andre by the face and slams him to the ground, saying, I'm sorry to tell you this, but I'm starting to feel hungry again. But before he can do anything, he gets hit by a mana attack. As he recovers, he sees it was Leonard Neerman, who says, I won't let you do as you please. Looking at Raken, Leonard thinks he's getting chills just by standing in front of him. From behind, Thomas tells Leonard to run or he will die. Leonard replies, I'm well aware of that, but I'm still a hunter after all. He thinks, I have no regrets. Even if this will be my final moment in life, I will make this choice many times over. A proud death rather than a meaningless life. Looking at Raken, he tells himself over and over again that he made the right choice. But as Raken approaches, Leonard's expression changes and he says, I made the wrong choice. Just as he thinks he's about to die, a beast swoops in from behind and attacks Raken. It's Kaisel. As he disappears, Raken notices something in the air. It's Jinwoo, who kicks him straight in the head, slamming him into the ground. Jinwoo instructs Leonard to take Thomas to a safe place. Raken starts to get back up from the rubble, saying, It's true, I can smell the Shadow Monarch from that human. Looking at him, Jinwoo notes that Raken's killing intent is quite intense, but he isn't the only one. Behind Jinwoo, Kureisha begins to materialize, saying, I'm guessing that means I can eat that human's body. I was always curious what another monarch would taste like. Jinwoo sees that Scyllid is also there. The monarchs surround Jinwoo. As all four prepare to fight, their mana can be sensed from a distance. Jinwoo summons all his shadow soldiers to attack. As the soldiers charge, Scyllid uses his breath to freeze them all in place. He tells Jinwoo, Your soldiers cannot move a single step within this prison. Kureisha adds, You should have at least left my children alone. It's been a while since I've seen them after all. Looking at the soldiers, Scyllid comments, To think he tried to use this kind of army to get in our way. This is belittling the other monarchs. And on top of that, I don't think the human was able to fully absorb the power of the Shadow Monarch. He tells Jinwoo that Ashborn, the Shadow Monarch, was the greatest among them, but they must not underestimate the strength of the other monarchs. Hearing that, Jinwoo breaks through the ice. Seeing this, Scyllid becomes angry. Jinwoo points at him and says, I will definitely kill at least you. The fight begins as Scyllid, the Frost Monarch, summons his ice golems to battle. Kureisha, the Monarch of Plagues, uses her powers to resurrect fallen hunters and send them against Jinwoo. They all attack, but Jinwoo is far too fast. He effortlessly dodges the onslaught and leaps towards Scyllid. Scyllid is stunned by his speed, but before Jinwoo can reach him, Raken, the Beast Monarch, intercepts him. They begin exchanging blows. Raken, eyeing the weapon in Jinwoo's hand, mocks him, asking if he thinks a mere piece of metal can hurt him. To his horror, Jinwoo slices off his hand, replying, I couldn't have, if it were just any other piece of metal. Before Jinwoo can land the final blow, Kureisha intervenes and rescues Rakan. Taking advantage of the distraction, Rakan reattaches his severed hand. Jinwoo realizes he's now surrounded by the minions and the three monarchs. Just then, one of Jinwoo's shadow soldiers breaks free from the ice. Beru, enraged, charges at Kureisha, shouting, That insect woman dared to lay her hands on my liege. Scyllid and Raken are shocked to see a commander level being under a human's control. Kureisha, preparing for a fight, says, A child who doesn't recognize their mother needs to be punished. But Beru, overwhelmingly strong, cuts through her abilities with ease, leaving her stunned. Beru kneels before Jinwoo and says, You weren't being pushed back even when facing beings of a superior species. As expected of my lord, your strength never ceases to amaze me. Kureisha's minions rush in, but Jinwoo and Beru slice through them effortlessly. Suddenly, Kureisha attacks from behind, taking out Beru and landing a strong blow on Jinwoo, sending him flying into a building. As he lies in the rubble, Scyllid unleashes a barrage of ice projectiles. Jinwoo rises and blocks them. Scyllid mocks him, asking how much longer he can hold out against their pincer attack. Jinwoo, however, surprises him by stabbing him in the heart, declaring, I told you, you're not getting out of here alive. Scyllid, enraged, pulls the weapon from his chest and yells, You insolent fool! A human dares speak such words to a monarch. Jinwoo notes to himself, he was hit in the heart. I guess that much isn't fatal for them, and throws another attack. But Scyllid smirks, and before Jinwoo can react, Raken appears behind him and slashes his back, drawing blood. Seeing Jinwoo wounded, Beru loses control, but before he can act, Kureisha appears behind him, introducing herself. I am Kureisha, the monarch of plagues, the mother of every insect in existence. She grabs Baru, saying, "Even if you're an ungrateful child who doesn't recognize his mother, I will still embrace you." Meanwhile, Jinwoo, on his knees from Raycon's brutal attack, hears Rakan taunt. "This is the end for you," Bru cries out to the other shadow soldiers. "What are you doing? Hurry up and assist our lord." Responding to his call, Greed breaks through the ice, saying, "I will be the one to take the enemy's last breath." Rakan notices him and comments that Greed must have been a powerful warrior in his life. Scyllid warns that the high-ranking shadow soldiers are starting to emerge. We then see Tusk, Egress, and Iron breaking free from their ice prisons. Seeing this, Scyllid turns to Jinwoo and says, "Your wounds are fatal, preparing to finish him. Playtime is long over," he sneers. But Jinwoo smirks and asks, "Are you talking about this?" Both monarchs are stunned to see Jinwoo getting back on his feet, his wounds now fully healed thanks to his status recovery skill. The world watches in awe as the battle between the monarchs unfolds, streamed live for everyone to see. Meanwhile, the city had turned into a battlefield as all of them collided, destroying everything in the vicinity. Lennart Nierman was watching their battle from a distance in horror. Thomas Andre was also regaining consciousness after being healed and asked Lennart about the situation. Lennart told him, "It's like I'm witnessing the end of the world." Hunter Beck were watching the battle unfold. He wondered if this was the same Sung Jinwoo he knew. He commented that while he knew Jinwoo had the ability to grow stronger, just how much stronger had he become in such a short amount of time? On the battlefield, Jinwoo, along with his shadow army, was starting to overpower the monarchs, and they were struggling to keep up with their regeneration. Queresha, furious as Baru was overwhelming her, decided to finish him off. But before she could, Jinwoo approached her, saying, "The architect told me a prophecy that I would die from the pillar of flames that holds up the world. But he didn't say whether that pillar would actually fall or not." From a distance, the Fiend Guild master, Lim Tae-gyu, was watching the battle from atop a building. He commented, "I've been standing by for a long time so I could snipe, but I don't think this is a fight I can interfere in." For the past 30 minutes, elite assassins from the Fiend Guild had been dispatched to buildings around the area to provide support fire when given the signal. Lim thought, "When we do that, how many of us will survive? If they failed, all of them might die, as even Thomas Andre wasn't able to subdue those monsters. It's about time we made a decision." As he was thinking this, a hand reached out to him from behind, telling him, "Just sit back and watch." He turned toward the person, asking for their identity, but was stunned to see who it was. Meanwhile, of all the hunters gathered to subjugate the magic beasts, not a single one was able to interfere with the ongoing fight. They were simply waiting for everything to settle. Back in the fight, Jinwoo managed to land a solid hit on Queresha, but that wasn't enough to take out the Queen of Insects, who began to regenerate. She attacked Jinwoo using poison, and a notification appeared, stating that venom effects were still present in the atmosphere. Jinwoo told her, "Poison won't work on me." Seeing this, Queresha was enraged and charged toward Jinwoo, saying, "I will rip you apart into pieces." But before she could finish her sentence, she felt something. Jinwoo was pulling her toward himself. Realizing this, she thought, "An overwhelming authority. I can't undo it." As she was pinned to the ground, Jinwoo used mutilation, directly hitting her, and she began to disintegrate into the air. In her final moments, she said, "So this must be death. A heavy darkness that humbles even us, who were created from darkness." She disappeared into the air, and Jinwoo received a notification telling him he had defeated Queresha, the Monarch of Plagues. Seeing this, Scyllid was in disbelief, saying, "How is this possible? He shouldn't be able to use the Shadow Monarch's power to its full extent yet." He asked Rakan, "So will we experience it again?" "Fear toward one of the strongest monarchs," Rakan responded. "Don't worry, he's exhausted." Grabbing Baru by the neck, Rakan said, "The fact that he's relying on these small fries implies that he is still incomplete. An incomplete monarch can't get in the way of true monarchs." As he started to crush Baru, Jinwoo noticed that Baru's existence was fading. He wondered if this was how he had removed the shadow that was placed on Thomas Andre. Panicking, Jinwoo tried to cancel the summon, ordering Baru to return. However, he was horrified to see a notification. You cannot retract the specified subject. Jinwoo jumped in to attack Raikon, saving Baru in the process. As he recalled Baru, he thought, I managed to prevent Baru from being extinguished. However, he then looked at Scyllid, who said, Beast Monarch, you are right. Scyllid covered an enormous area in ice and fully transformed. He told Jinwoo, You're confident in your powers of controlling puppets like these, so we simply need to cut the strings so you can't control them anymore. I will trap the puppets under my authority and make them go through healing and resurrection over and over again. Then your soldiers will be nothing but parasites that eat away at your mana. He attacked Jinwoo, asking, What will you do now? He managed to injure Jinwoo's arm, lifting him into the air and slamming him to the ground, thinking, he's not there yet. But Jinwoo leaped out of the rubble and attacked Scyllid. However, Scyllid dodged and struck back with such force that Jinwoo was launched backward. Jinwoo managed to land on his feet, thinking, he's fast. Looking at Jinwoo's condition, Scyllid said, Your stealth skill must have a heavy mana consumption, and leaped toward Jinwoo, saying, I will end this quickly. As they exchanged blows, Jinwoo thought, I can see all his movements, but if only I could be just a little bit faster. Looking at him, Scyllid said, I don't know what you're plotting, but it's no use, and attacked with ice magic. However, by that time, Jinwoo was already behind him, thinking, I got him. But he saw Scyllid smirking and sensed something. Everyone was watching and absolute horrified to see what just happened in front of him was real. Even Leonard Narman couldn't believe his eyes. As it was revealed that Raikon, the Monarch of Fangs, the King of Beasts, had managed to sneak up behind Jinwoo, piercing through his chest with his claws. Raikon said, I guess you're nothing without the speed you're so confident in. Jinwoo looked down at Raikon's claws as his weapons fell to the ground. He thought, my level increased. This much is nothing. Scyllid picked up Jinwoo's dagger, stabbing him, and said, I will return your weapon to you. Can you heal like you did earlier? Probably not. No matter how strong you are, you're not a complete monarch. He asked Jinwoo, Is this as far as you can go, human? If that's the case, you will not be able to witness it. The moment our army set foot in this world, when that happens, there will be a mountain of human corpses, and their blood will form endless rivers. Everything he was saying was broadcasting to the world. He added, But I have a different plan for this country you grew up in. I shall personally freeze every single human in this country myself and make them suffer through eternal agony. They will live through an eternity, unable to die or live. So show me your endless contempt for me within your death. That will also be part of my joy. As Jinwoo was being frozen, he thought he needed to hold on just a little longer. A notification opened up telling him his HP had reached 0 and the player had died. However, another notification appeared stating that the player was in possession of the Black Heart and had met all the requirements for a passive skill. The skill was activated and the screen filled with a bright light. Afterward, Jinwoo woke up. As he sat up, he realized he was in a hospital and started to panic, thinking about his fight with the Monarchs. He wondered, was all of that just a dream? He was certain that the ice dagger had pierced through his heart and couldn't understand how he was still alive. As he was thinking, Woo Jin-chul, along with another man, entered the room and asked Jinwoo if he had regained consciousness. Seeing him, Jinwoo was surprised and asked what had happened to the Monarchs. He called him Chairman Woo and asked how he was still alive. Hearing that, Woo Jin-chul was taken aback. He told Jinwoo, There are 3 things I need to tell you. First, he said, I'm not the chairman, but the chief inspector of the surveillance team. Second, I'd like to ask you about the moving statues. And third, how do you know who I am? Jinwoo couldn't process what Woo Jin-chul was talking about. Woo continued, explaining that when they arrived at the site with the White Tiger Guild, everything was already over. Jinwoo replied that's not what he was referring to. Realizing the strangeness of the situation, Jinwoo concluded that he had somehow traveled back in time. Looking at his condition, Woo asked if he was all right. Jinwoo told him he needed time to gather his thoughts. He checked his stats and items in his inventory, noting that everything was the same as before. He even had Kamisha's wrath. As he was thinking, a voice called out, asking why he wasn't resting. It was his sister, Jinna, who asked if he had hurt his head in the dungeon too. Looking at his appearance, she wondered if she had entered the wrong room and asked, "Who are you?" Jinwoo thought that she probably didn't recognize him because his appearance had gradually changed in the future. She hesitated, asking, "Are you sure you're my brother? You look so different. And you've grown quite a bit too." Jinwoo replied, "It's probably just your imagination," and started to walk away, saying, "I'm a little busy. I need to head to the Hunters Association." She asked why, and Jinwoo replied, "I need to inform them that I'm giving up being a hunter." He told her to return to school, saying, "I know you left in the middle of class," and turned to Han Song-yi. He told her, "Don't ever think about giving up on studying to become a hunter." Han Song-yi was surprised, wondering how he knew her name. Jinwoo pulled up his hood, thinking, "I don't have my shadow soldiers. I'll need to rebuild my army." He wondered, how could this be happening? He arrived at the association building to have his rank reevaluated. The staff talked about how he was the first S rank in 2 years. They told him their device couldn't measure his magic power. Jinwoo then said, "Before we do it again, I would like to meet the chairman." The men tell Jinwoo they will guide him to the chairman's room, but he walks away saying he already knows where it is. Watching him go, they wonder how an outsider like him knows where the chairman's room is located. While taking the elevator, another man stands beside Jinwoo, thinking to himself, "What kind of scenario should I make up today? It's not my first time lying to the association. If I get caught by Chief Inspector Wu, I'd be in big trouble." Jinwoo suddenly speaks. "You possess a stealth skill, and yet you haven't reported it." Startled, the man reaches for his weapon and asks, "How do you know that?" Jinwoo calmly tells him, in the near future, someone would ask him to avenge their daughter. He didn't care what he did to the criminals, but if he ever hurt innocent hunters in the process, you will die by my hands. This is my first and final warning. Kang Tae-shik, in utter shock, nervously asked, "Who the hell are you?" But he just walked away, leaving Tae-shik questioning what his deal was, saying he was like a ghost. Jinwoo enters the chairman's office, his eyes widening as he sees Chairman Go Gun-hee. "It's been forever since I last saw him," he thinks. Jinwoo greets the chairman, and the chairman remarks, "Seeing how you came to me right after receiving your test results, I assume you're familiar with the procedure." Sensing Jinwoo's emotional state, the chairman asks if he's all right. Jinwoo replies, "It's nothing." As they sit, Jinwoo interrupts the chairman and says, "There's a deal I'd like to propose." He requests that the regulations be changed so that summoned creatures can be counted as raid members. In exchange, Jinwoo promises to go to Jeju Island and exterminate the ant monsters. Shocked, Chairman Go tells Jinwoo not to say something so absurd, reminding him of the many failed Jeju Island raids. But as he looks at Jinwoo, he senses an overwhelming amount of mana. Jinwoo tells him, "This is something only I can accomplish. I'll take care of the ants." The chairman is left speechless, realizing Jinwoo's power far exceeds even that of a national-level hunter. A sequence of Jinwoo's past adventures begins to flash. Saving Lee Juhee, surviving his first Red Gate incident, defeating High Orcs, turning Tusk into a shadow soldier, saving his mother from eternal slumber, and finally arriving at Jeju Island, where he defeats Beru and turns him, along with the other insect monsters, into shadow soldiers. Jinwoo suddenly questions everything, shouting, "Why don't you stop this? I know this is an illusion. Stop this charade and show yourself." Looking above, the illusion shatters. He's surrounded by system notifications asking if he wants to restart the world. Jinwoo demands to know who the entity is. The one responsible appears, and Jinwoo recognizes him as the King of the Dead. The King of the Dead offers Jinwoo the chance to live in this world forever, like an endless dream. Jinwoo asks, "Are you suggesting I be trapped inside this illusion you created?" The King of the Dead replies, "No, I didn't create it. You did. This world was born from your desire to correct your past mistakes, combined with my power. In other words, this is my domain. This is eternal rest. This is death." He continues, "I have been watching you longer than you could imagine. You who were always closer to death than anyone else, yet resisted it so desperately. I am the record of your struggles, the evidence of your resistance, and the reward of your suffering. I am death, I am eternal rest, and also terror. I am you. The king of the dead tells Jinwoo that within this territory, he can do anything. Turn the king's servants into his own, absorb their powers, and even alter reality, though only within this domain. Jinwoo asks, "So are you saying you and I possess the same power?" The king of the dead replies, "I've been waiting a very long time for this meeting. I am the Shadow Monarch, the administrator of the deepest part of the darkness." Jinwoo then asks, "Why was I chosen?" The Shadow Monarch answers, "I shall show you our beginning and end, and also your beginning." The story shifts back to the city where Jinwoo was frozen by the monarch. Looking at him, Raken tells Scyllid, "He's dead for sure." Meanwhile, Thomas Andre tells Leonard that Jinwoo's presence has just disappeared. Hearing that, Hunter Beck says, "That's impossible. Now there's no one who can stop those magical beasts." Lim, from the top of a building, regrets I shouldn't have listened to that person earlier, and wonders if they can stop the creatures by bombarding them now. He decides to attack and instructs his hunters to prepare to fire. "We'll fire all at once on my signal," he says. "Our target is that magical beast that looks like a white walker." As he prepares to attack, Jinwoo starts to emit a massive amount of mana, shocking Scyllid. He sees Jinwoo's black heart burning with dark flame. Seeing this, both Scyllid and Raken realize something and charge toward Jinwoo, shouting, "We must stop the true king from descending now that the false king has died." As they get close, Raken is kicked in the face by someone and crashes into Scyllid. Both go flying into a nearby building. A man appears before Jinwoo, who is still inside the prison created by Scyllid, and says, "None shall touch this child." We then see the history of the Shadow Monarch from the distant past. An absolute being split light and darkness to create his emissaries. From light and darkness, he created the 8 sovereigns. The emissaries were born to maintain the world, and the sovereigns were born to destroy it. Both factions continuously slaughtered each other, worn down by the unending war. The brightest fragment of brilliant light asked the Absolute, "Why do you ignore the screams of countless soldiers dying for you?" He begged the Absolute to lend them his strength so they could fight in his name. But the Absolute did not answer. At that moment, the fragment of brilliant light realized the truth. To the Absolute, the war between the emissaries and the sovereigns was nothing more than entertainment. He had no intention of ending it. They understood that even if they followed the Absolute's laws, only death awaited them. As long as the Absolute existed, the war would never end. So to stop this meaningless conflict, they drew their swords. It was the start of the rebellion. The monarch points to the vision, saying, "That is me in the distant past." He tells Jinwoo, "I was the sole emissary who stood against the rebellion of the other emissaries. But my pitiful number of soldiers was no match for the combined forces of the emissaries." When he thought everything was over, he opened his eyes in the darkness and discovered that the Absolute had hidden a certain power within him. On that day, the Shadow Monarch was born. He used his powers to resurrect his fallen soldiers and led them back to the battlefield. However, by the time he returned, everything was already over. The remaining fragments of brilliant light had killed the Absolute being and called themselves the new rulers. Using various tools containing the power of the Absolute, they hunted down the monarchs. As a result, the king of giants, Ligia, was captured by the rulers, and the power balance between the two sides collapsed. He tells Jinwoo that the monarchs realized the severity of the situation, and he used that moment to reach out to them. They had no choice but to combine forces with him in order to combat their common enemy, the rulers. From then on, he continued the long-lasting battle as neither a fragment of brilliant light nor an emissary of the Absolute being, but as the Shadow Monarch. He strengthened his army by gathering soldiers that remained on the battlefield. When he combined forces with the army of destruction, led by the Monarch of Destruction, the king of berserk dragons, the monarchs as well as the rulers came to fear him. 2 of the monarchs who feared him turned against him after combining forces. Because of that betrayal, his shadow army was nearly annihilated. The strength that was too powerful brought him betrayal. While the beast monarch, the king of beasts, fled after abandoning his soldiers, the monarch of white flames, Baron, had to pay the ultimate price. But then, the rulers descended from the sky. They surrounded the Shadow Monarch and kneeled in front of him, asking for his forgiveness, saying there was no reason for them to fight any longer. Even though they possessed enough power to erase him completely if they wished to, they chose to pursue peace. It was the least respect they could show him for the time he was their ally, fighting on the front lines while leading the army of brilliant light. Hearing their apology, the Shadow Monarch asked them, "Have you not harmed my liege with your swords and spears? They say he was our master as well." Hearing that, the Shadow Monarch grew furious and told them, "This is precisely why your crimes are even more heinous." One of the fragments told him, "You should understand better than anyone how we felt when we raised our banners of rebellion against our master. We simply wanted to end this war." Hearing this, the Shadow Monarch told them, "Then pierce my heart with your spear. This is the end that you so desperately seek. You shall finally become the victors of this war." But the fragments asked him once more to find it in his heart to forgive them, as all the armies surrounded him, showing him their respect. The Shadow Monarch tells Jinwoo that he was overwhelmed and could not come up with a solution, so he decided to hide for the sake of revenge. Since he had trapped the Monarch of White Flames within him, he was planning to strike the forces of the Beast Monarch after recovering. But while he was hiding, the Monarchs, who had lost the majority of their power, were defeated by the rulers. When he reappeared in front of the Monarchs, who had escaped to the cracks between dimensions, the King of Dragons did not allow any fight to break out. He knew it was time for them to recover their strength. Thus, he gladly welcomed the Shadow Monarch to join his forces. They went searching for a new world to rebuild their army. The Shadow Monarch continued. Hearing all of this, Jinwoo asked if he was referring to Earth. The Shadow Monarch confirmed, "Yes, that is correct," and showed Jinwoo the destroyed cities. Jinwoo thought, "I've seen this scene before. This is the Demon Castle." He asked, "Is this what will happen in the future?" The Monarch replied, "This is a recording of the past." Hearing that, Jinwoo asks, "What are you talking about?" The Shadow Monarch explains that in the past, the rulers were late in detecting the movements of the Monarchs, and by the time they arrived, everything had already ended. By then, the rulers were furious that the army of the Chaos World, which they had previously failed to eradicate, had once again brought destruction upon another world. In order to fix their mistake, they used a tool imbued with the power of the Absolute Being, something they had forbidden themselves from using. A tool called the Cup of Reincarnation. It had the ability to turn back time by 10 years. The rulers sacrificed everything they had in an effort to save this world. However, the current Earth was far too weak to withstand a battle between monarchs and rulers. Regardless of who won, the planet itself would suffer the same catastrophic consequences. So the rulers made a drastic decision. If they couldn't save everyone, they wanted to ensure at least some would survive so that life could continue. Jinwoo asks, "Is that why the hunters were created?" The Shadow Monarch replies, "Yes. They were trying to create humans capable of surviving the clash between these powerful forces. The rulers were determined to ensure that humanity endured, no matter the cost." Jinwoo reflects, "The Demon King is a fragment of memories left behind by the Shadow Monarch," and asks, "Has this world already gone through countless annihilations?" The Shadow Monarch confirms, "Indeed. While higher beings cannot go against the flow of time, they can perceive the alterations caused by the Cup of Reincarnation." He adds, "Now the cup is no longer usable." Surprised, Jinwoo asks, "How is that possible?" The Shadow Monarch explains, "The cup did not possess infinite power. Just like the Absolute Being, who was eliminated by his own creations, every power has its limits." Jinwoo then asks, "How could the creations kill the Absolute?" He answers, "It's no different than humans being killed by the machines they themselves created. We were made to fight, and our power was sufficient to overthrow our creator." He goes on to say that the monarchs had adopted the rulers' methods. Just as the rulers lent power to humans to help them kill magic beasts and strengthen the world, the monarchs devised a similar plan. They would descend onto Earth by borrowing human bodies and bring their armies with them, far earlier than the rulers had anticipated. They planned to turn the entire Earth, saturated with magical energy spread by the rulers, into a massive trap. But to do this, they needed host bodies that could withstand their immense power. However, the Shadow Monarch and the Monarch of Destruction possessed powers far too great, and no human existed at that time capable of hosting them. That's when one of the most capable mages serving under a king approached the Shadow Monarch with a proposal. He said he would help find a suitable host. That mage was known as the Architect. In return for his help, the Architect demanded an imperishable body, but no living thing could become a vessel to contain death. The Architect created a system to search for a human with a rare combination of abilities. One talented in sensing magic, one with prodigious physical capabilities, superiority of spirit, and great mental resilience. He searched for a human whose strength could match the power of the Shadow Monarch. And eventually he found someone. Someone who bested his system, who rewrote the rules of the game, and exceeded all expectations. It was you, he says to Jinwoo. You who were always weak, always closest to death, and yet survived again and again. I watched you. Even in defiance of the Architect, I chose you. So I will say it once more. I am the record of your struggles, the evidence of your resistance, and the reward for your pain. Hearing all that, Jinwoo asks, even though I exceeded the Architect's expectations, I still wasn't enough to handle your power, right? The Shadow Monarch explains that the Architect used elements based on human skills and preferences to match Jinwoo's strength. He designed the system using games and simulations to entertain and stimulate Jinwoo. That same system, powered by the Shadow Monarch's energy, slowly transformed Jinwoo's body, leveling it up over time to reach the desired strength. Jinwoo then asks, why did you betray the Architect? The Shadow Monarch responds, the apology of the rulers, the betrayal of the monarchs. I debated which side I should stand on, and in the end, I made a choice. I wanted it to be this way. My time with you was blissful. Perhaps I simply didn't want to lose you. He continues, over time, I became you, and you became me. So it doesn't matter who owns this body. We are already one. Therefore, I give you a choice. You may remain in this domain of death, enjoying the eternal dreams you've created. Or, if you choose otherwise, you will return to reality, where your enemies await. Jinwoo then questions him again. You said you had made your decision, but you didn't stand with the rulers? Why did you flee to the other world with the monarchs, even though your will to fight the rulers had long faded? The Shadow Monarch replies, because there was no place for me in that world. Jinwoo, hearing this, answers, then my answer is the same. This is not where I belong. Hearing his response, the Shadow Monarch smiles and begins to walk away. Jinwoo asks, is this the last time I'll see you? The Shadow Monarch replies, I will return to rest, but you, as the new Shadow Monarch, will live an imperishable life. The chance of our paths crossing again is slim. With your death, your power has become absolute. Before he can finish explaining how to return, Jinwoo interrupts, I know. The Shadow Monarch smiles and says, because I am you. Meanwhile, Scylla and Raken witness Jinwoo's rebirth. They confront a glowing being, one of the fragments of brilliant light, and question him. The worst disaster is emerging from the body of the human you're protecting. Are you really going to bring catastrophe to this world with your own hands? Are you truly risking your life to help the Shadow Monarch return? Just what are you traitors thinking? Raken tells Scylla, we don't have much time, and prepares to stop Jinwoo's revival. The fragment, realizing their intent, prepares to fight as well, to buy time for Jinwoo to return. At lightning speed, all three rush into battle. Scylla attacks first with his trident, but the fragment is too fast and dodges easily. From above, Raken dives in with his claws, but the fragment again dodges and quickly gets behind Scylla, stabbing him in the shoulder. Scylla observes, he's reading the trajectory of my attacks and adapting accordingly. Unable to land a hit, Raken notes, he moves like a warrior who has fought countless battles. He's evading the Frost Monarch's techniques while defending against all of mine. As Raken keeps him occupied, Scylla tries to sneak behind the fragment and freeze him in place. But once again, the fragment is too quick. He kicks Scylla under the chin, launching him into the air and smashing him into a nearby building. As this happens, Raken charges, opening his jaw wide to rip the fragment apart. But instead, he is pierced straight through the face and screams in pain. Before he can recover, the fragment drives an elbow into his ribs, sending him crashing backward. Enraged, Raken rips the weapon from his face and roars, I'll tear you apart. but his body trembles uncontrollably. He turns to look at Jinwoo and senses the overwhelming mana radiating from him. Terrified, he leaps back to create distance between them. By this time, Frost Monarch Scyllid has also recovered. He tells the fragment of brilliant light, "That won't work on me again." Then he turns toward Beast Monarch Raken and orders him to attack again. But Raken refuses. "I will stop now." Scyllid is stunned. "You're going to quit after coming this far. Are you out of your mind?" Raken replies. "Can't you feel it? The mana around us. It's crying. The Shadow Monarch is coming." He opens a portal and says, "Count me out of this." Scyllid demands, "Didn't you promise to help me defeat the Shadow Monarch?" Raken answers, "My promise was only valid when he was still in his human form. Now that the real monarch is coming, I have no more reason to stay." Scyllid tries to stop him. "You're running away with your tail between your legs, and you call yourself the Beast Monarch." Raken replies, "You wouldn't understand. You've never experienced the true power of the Shadow Monarch." He teleports away. "I'll pray for your fortune." Left alone, Scyllid decides to fight on. He declares, "Taste the terror of frost. This is my true power." He slams his trident into the ground, unleashing a massive ice storm across the battlefield. Seeing this, Lim instructs the hunters under him, "We are retreating. Leave this place at once." The ice condenses into spears and rains down upon the fragment, forcing him to dodge as Scyllid charges up for a massive attack. Scyllid roars, "Mere humans dare to challenge me without knowing their place." A gigantic mass of ice begins to form in the sky. "Be trapped inside the eternal void with the Shadow Monarch," Scyllid shouts. The fragment watches in horror. Is he trying to destroy the entire area? Before he can act, one of the ice projectiles pierces him, severing his arm. As the colossal ice mass falls toward him, he braces for impact. But before it can land, a shadow leaps up and shatters the ice midair. We see that it's Baru, who has returned to the battlefield, now stronger than ever. On the ground, the Shadow Monarch appears in his true form, shielding the fragment of brilliant light. He says to Scyllid, "Do not assume the position of a king with such measly power." Scyllid stands frozen, stunned. "He broke free from my spell," which means the commander-rank shadow soldiers have regained their strength. Jinwoo begins emerging from his armor, revealing his true self. "That's why I shouldn't trust prophecies," he mutters. All his soldiers are now free, and they kneel before him. He asks, "Did the Beast Monarch flee?" Scyllid's expression shifts in dread as Jinwoo continues, "Who dares to leave without my permission?" Horrified, Scyllid thinks, "It's a wall I could never hope to overcome. The gap in power is far too great." A dark dome begins forming around Jinwoo, expanding rapidly and eventually covering a massive portion of the city. So vast it becomes visible from space, enveloping half the earth. As the shadow field fades, Jinwoo quietly says, "Found you?" Thinking Jinwoo is distracted, Scyllid believes this is his only chance. Although there's an enormous gap in our power to let his guard down like this. "If I miss this chance, only death awaits me. I must finish everything with this one strike." He gathers all his mana and hurls his trident at Jinwoo, but Jinwoo effortlessly catches it with one hand and shatters it into pieces. Scyllid stands in disbelief. How? So this is the power of the Shadow Monarch, one of the strongest monarchs. But instead of retaliating, Jinwoo says, "Wait, I'll save you for later. Wait patiently until I finish dealing with the beast." Meanwhile, deep within a forest, a portal opens and Beast Monarch Raken steps out. "The aura of death is closing in on me," he thinks. "I shouldn't have wasted time arguing with the Frost Monarch. It made me flee too late. But now I need to hide until the Dragon King returns." As he thinks this, a shadow looms behind him. Sensing it, he turns alarmed. This aura, no way. Frozen in terror, he drops to his knees. The suffocating scent of death. I can neither fight nor run. From his battle instincts, he knows. This is a hopeless gap in strength. He bows his head. "I, the King of Beasts, do not wish to fight you," he says to Jinwoo. "Please forgive my past sins. Accept me as your ally. In the near future, The Dragon King will descend upon this land with his army. I, along with my Beast Legion, will aid you." Hearing this, Jinwoo agrees to spare his life. Smirking internally, Raken thinks, "He fell for it. How foolish," Raken thinks. "He isn't the real deal. If he were, there's no way he'd forgive me, especially after I betrayed him again and tried to kill his vessel. I've bought time thanks to the humans' foolish forgiveness and emotions. All I need to do now is wait for the Dragon King's arrival, and when that day comes, I will rip your corpse into pieces." Out loud, however, Raken says to Jinwoo, "I shall serve you with loyalty." Jinwoo replies, "Before that, we need to settle something. I still bear 5 scars from your claws. If you can survive 5 of my attacks, I'll forgive you." Raken's calm demeanor shatters. Enraged, he fully transforms and roars, "You dare mock me, the king of beasts? Though I may die here, I'll make sure you don't leave unscathed." Towering over Jinwoo in his monstrous form, he charges forward. Jinwoo draws his dagger and moves like a streak of light, cutting past Raken in an instant. Raken doesn't even register what happened, until blood begins to drip and he realizes he's lost a limb. Jinwoo calmly says, "4 more to go." Back in Korea, Baru is healing the injured hunters. Watching him, Frost Monarch Scyllid thinks, "I don't care about that ant healing humans. But this one, this is a problem." He notices Igris approaching and immediately recognizes him. The Knight of Death. One of the Shadow Army's 2 wings. He's Igris. Now that they can use their full power again, it's a real nuisance. They can regenerate endlessly as long as the Shadow Monarch has mana. But I can't recover the mana I used for my transformation. Scyllid lands and warns Igris, "Don't bother doing anything meaningless. Do you really think you can hold out against me?" Igris says nothing. Instead, he buries his sword into the ground. From within his dark cloak, Jinwoo begins to emerge. Jinwoo steps out and tosses 2 bloody beast fangs onto the ground. The Beast Monarch is dead. Scyllid is stunned. He killed the Beast Monarch. In just the few minutes he was gone. Jinwoo declares, "The Plague Monarch, the Beast Monarch, and the Frost Monarch. Your deaths will serve as a warning to the others monarchs." Scyllid prepares for battle, summoning ice projectiles, but before he can react, 2 daggers pierce him, one into his chest, another into his shoulder. Desperate, he tries to attack using what little mana he has left, but Jinwoo grabs him by the mouth and slashes through him. "The Beast Monarch died on the 4th strike," Jinwoo says coldly. "I wonder how long you'll last." Scyllid screams in agony as he reverts to his human form. His body crumbles into icy fragments and disappears into the air. After defeating all the monarchs present, Jinwoo turns to Baru. "Where is the man who was protecting me earlier?" he asks. Baru replies, "He disappeared all of a sudden." We then see the man dragging himself away from the battlefield. His hand begins breaking apart, disintegrating into particles of light. So this is the consequence of receiving this power in a mere human body, he thinks. But it's fine. This is how it should be. A dagger lands beside him. A familiar voice asks, "Did you really think I wouldn't notice if you just left?" It's Jinwoo. "Why did you leave without saying a word?" he asks. Then softly he calls him father. The story shifts back to the dungeon where Jinwoo's father, Sung Il-hwan, had been trapped. He begins telling Jinwoo what happened that day. After clearing the dungeon boss, hunters are required to escape the gate within an hour. However, Il-hwan had no choice but to be trapped within the dimensional rift. The rulers lent him their strength and requested that he stop the monarchs, including the Shadow Monarch, who was soon to be born. With no other means of escape, he accepted their offer and returned to Earth as the ruler's emissary, burdened with a heavy responsibility. However, he failed to fulfill that mission. Even though he knew the worst calamity for humanity resided within Jinwoo's body, he could only observe from afar. The rulers, whose sole focus had been to prevent the full awakening of the Shadow Monarch, began to change their stance. Eventually, the brightest fragment of brilliant light gave Il-hwan a new order: to protect the Shadow Monarch. They had realized that in order to stop the monarch's grand plan, they needed the power of the Shadow Monarch. Only his army had the potential to defeat the Dragon Monarch, who would arrive before the ruler's armies. It was a huge gamble, uncertain whether the Shadow Monarch would side with humans or monsters. But now they had their answer. That's why Il-hwan helped Jinwoo. He admits he never wanted to show this side of himself. Tears fall from Jinwoo's eyes after hearing this. Il-hwan asks, "Did you hate me?" Jinwoo replies, "Sometimes," and apologizes. He explains that when he first became a hunter, when he was on the brink of death and barely survived to see his mother again, he thought of his father. He always hated him in those moments, but he also missed him. Then Jinwoo asks, "Did you miss us?" Il-hwan, unable to hold back his emotions, replies, "I missed you all the time. Even though you couldn't see me, I was happy just being able to see you from afar." He stands up and hugs Jinwoo, saying, "You've grown well." Jinwoo then asks, "Was it the rulers? Are they the ones who controlled you and are now discarding you?" His father explains that the rulers merely gave him an opportunity to choose. He chose to protect Jinwoo, and he doesn't regret it. But now he just wants to talk more and stay a little longer. He apologizes for not being a great father. After saying that, Sung Il-hwan disappears into the air, leaving Jinwoo standing alone. Jinwoo lets out a scream of anguish. The scene shifts to his mother and sister. His mother, gazing out the window, calls to Jana and tells her, "Let's move now." With tears in her eyes, she repeats, "We can move now." Meanwhile, Jinwoo, filled with rage, shouts to the remaining monarchs, "You will definitely pay the price for what happened today." Thus, the day the Shadow Monarch's outcry shook the entire world marked the beginning of the true war. The episode ends here. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. Thanks again for all your support. I'll see you next time.